Welcome to this month's virtual event brought to you by the FYI by Find Your Influence. My name is Chelsea Goodson, and I'm back for another insightful webinar. This month, we're diving into the world of AI in reference to influencer marketing. And we're going to cover such topics as understanding the role of AI in influencer marketing specifically, how AI can streamline the process of discovering and selecting influencers and which tools can do this, and then predictive analytics as well. So forecasting influencer performance to assist marketers in data-driven decisions. Okay, now for the fun part, our panelist. I would like to introduce you all to Micah DesJardins, excuse me. Oh, go ahead.
It's DesJardins.
Ah, perfect. I apologize. I should have clarified. I've known you for years, Mike, and I still struggle with your last name, so I greatly apologize.
No problem.
Well, Micah is our Chief Technology Officer here at Find Your Influence, and with over 30 years of experience in the technology and software development space, Micah also has a very deep focus on software engineering and software development space overall. His recent work leverages machine learning and artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, to deliver scalable, faster insights and drive organizational change. Leading the charge in the strategic application of AI for operational efficiencies and competitive advantage. Micah's innovative approach marks him as a pivotal figure in revolutionizing industries through technology like ours here at FYI. Micah, I'd love for you to say hello, just a short little hello or intro, anything you'd like to share.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be here to talk about AI. Us software development nerds are always talking about new and big things, but this is really, really big in terms of technological change. We've been through some previous iterations of technological change with some of the awesome things that came along with deep application of machine learning and voice application. Sorry, I'm like getting ahead of myself here. I'm so excited about
No,
this topic.
you're okay.
Um,
We're excited
but
too.
this is this is a really big change. Generative AI for both text and images and video and music is really just sort of exploding right now, and it's going to continue to do so for quite some time. This is a huge, huge shift in how we do virtually everything. And so it's exciting to be able to talk about some of the practical applications for influencer marketing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Micah. And then I'd like to introduce you all to CJ Johnson. He is a creator, author. He has many different areas that he spends his time in, but most importantly, we're excited to be spending time with him today. He is an award-winning creative, published author, and a trusted advisor to some of the world's most influential brands. He ignites trends, masters emerging technologies, and captivates audiences with his stylish and insightful content. From startups to Fortune 500 companies, CJ has really nurtured brand narratives and navigated cultural shifts with his rare dot connector vision. His expertise really transcends, mere campaigns and the evidence by his prestigious roles, such as those with the Mental Health Coalition as an ambassador, the Walmart Civic Engagement Consultant, and an Adweek creator, Google Next Gen Technology Policy Leader, and so on and so forth. So many amazing roles that you have stepped into, CJ. And obviously, I know that you recently published your book, The McGuire Method, which we'll be doing a little giveaway for today. So stay till the end for more details. Yes. But your book empowers readers to unlock their full potential and further solidify your role as a multifaceted leader. Excuse me, I'm just slipping over my words today. Apologize for that. But CJ, it's so great to have you, and would love for you to say hello and share anything that you'd like. But we're so excited to be chatting further today about AI technology within influencer marketing with you.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. This is a wonderful conversation. Can't wait to deep dive in all of these things for you. Everybody that's paying attention, I hope to offer some perspective from the standpoint of an influencer, successful influencer, and a successful marketer, specifically with influencer marketing, and how AI tools are reshaping the way that we're doing things, like Micah just alluded to. It's all about improving productivity, saving time, saving money, and enhancing the quality of output. And AI tools is something that's already been a part of what we've been using. We're just now transforming the way that it's being used.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, excited to dive more into that with you both. And then a little bit about myself. I'm our head of influencer economy here at Find Your Influence. I've been working within the space for over 10 years and have been sharing my life online since I was a teenager. So I'm really excited about these conversations and just to see how the world online has changed, and particularly within influencer marketing is really exciting to me. So with that, I'm really excited to dig into these topics with you all today. And before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. All attendees' cameras are off and microphones are muted, so no need to worry there. We do have a QA chat that will be open throughout the duration of the webinar, and we would encourage you to submit questions. Toward the end, we'll go ahead and jump into those, and we'll do our best to make sure that every one of them gets answered, but please submit those there. And then, like I mentioned, CJ is going to be hosting a giveaway for us today for a copy of his amazing book, and then we'll be doing the giveaway for one lucky winner. And that winner will be picked at random for registering for the event, and we'll contact you after the webinar wraps to get your information. But yes, let's go ahead and dive in. First question, I'd really love to talk about the landscape, but Micah, I'll look to you. What are some of the key ways you feel AI is revolutionizing influencer marketing strategies?
Sure. So there's lots of ways, right? And I'm going to try to touch on a few of them here. One of them is really enhanced content creation in general, right? So we have all these incredible tools at our disposal. AI allows us, I really want to be clear about this because I know that there's a lot of fear mongering out there about AI, and some of it's valid. But there's this idea that AI is coming for everybody's job, and that's not really true, right? There's some technical limitations to everything that's out there. And if you really start using these tools, you're going to rub up against them. And it's going to, in some ways, it'll be frustrating, but in some ways, I think it's comforting to see that there's still limitations here to what can and can't be done. But there's just tremendous amount of opportunity here for things like for content creation when you need to go through a large amount of other content in order to find relevant pieces. You can literally put some of this information in front of AI and ask them to help you pull out relevant information for you to review. You can go through and ask it to summarize something for you if you've pulled a lot of stuff together and you're not sure if it's clear enough. But with that said, I think one of the big keys with this is that in order to not lose the humanity of it, it's really, really important that you work collaboratively with AI rather than just hand off tasks to it and say, here, why don't you just go do this for me? Because AI makes some significant mistakes and you've got to be paying attention. You have to watch. It's on you to make sure that you're steering and directing it in the right ways. I would say some of the limitations show up more easily in things like image generation because it's so immediate and visceral, right? You can immediately see things and things that a computer doesn't necessarily understand. But like one of the things that's very common is people look at it and they go, "Oh, but the teeth are wrong," right? It's image and it looks just about right, except those can't be human teeth, right? And that's all of those things are problems to be solved that for sure we will get to. We will get past all of those things. And there's anyways, I'm we're going way hard on this, but content
That's
creation is one of the
okay.
huge places because it will allow you to focus on the things that are important, the things that matter. It'll
Yeah.
help you get past some of the stumbling blocks that are keeping you from getting your message out there or keeping it focused or directed, because you're having to be your own virtual assistant, your own researcher, your own everything. And AI helps you in a way to do some of that collaboration and really focus your efforts on the parts that are really important.
Yeah.
A couple other things are improved targeting and personalization, right? This is something where the tools for AI, this is something AI is very, very good at, is analyzing vast um, amounts of data, identifying patterns and insights about behaviors and preferences, helping to infer information about audiences based on the information that it has from both what you're putting out there, your audience's engagement, comments, really being able to look at all this stuff in context helps you understand things like how uh, how close you and your audience are to each other in terms of perspective and outlook and values and what's important to you and what about your message is resonating with people,
Right.
right? That's huge. There's more to it. There's optimizations for performance and analytics. There's predictive analytics. There's lots of like things that you can go into with it, but we have a lot of other questions, and I'm sure I could
Yes.
talk about some of it there. Sorry.
I promise we'll get to all this, so thank you.
Sure.
Yes, CJ, I'd love to loop it over to you in terms of the influencer perspective. How do you think AI will shape the future landscape of influencer marketing, particularly in the terms of like content personalization and audience targeting, kind of like Micah was just talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's already changing, just like what Micah was saying. Right now, we can see that AI improves productivity by 40% by automating tasks and providing actionable insights. We're
Mhm.
seeing that the top performing companies are 2 times more likely to use AI for marketing. So
Mhm.
it's unavoidable. It is here to stay. It's
Yes.
all about learning, applying, and integrating into your workflow. So if
Right.
you're an influencer, this is a great way to avoid burnout. This
Mhm.
is a great way to enhance the quality of content. So, for example, if you're having trouble writing a caption and you're like, I'm tired of, like, oh my God, my brain hurts.
Yeah.
You can go use a tool like a ChatGPT or Gemini for Google. Google has an amazing AI tool called Gemini, free to use. So, for all of you out there that use ChatGPT, I like to use both because both the way that the companies are run, they have different rules and regulations of how they interact with the user. So that's one thing that Micah might mention later is that all of these AI tools also have different principles of using them. So it's not just one data set. There's multiple different data sets of which you can use. So as an influencer, a good way to use AI tools to your advantage is to strategize different captions and A/B test to see what works. Right now, more and more companies are integrating AI tools for analytics. So we heard the word predictive analytics
Yeah.
and trend setting. That's starting to become the norm. So
Mhm.
there's less excuses to know what works and what doesn't work. Now we are able to use AI tools to predict that a little bit more. You're able to schedule and automate a little bit more, a little bit easier. So again, what we're looking for here is saving time
Right.
and increasing the productivity aspect of it. And as a marketer, it's a really good idea to have a nice blueprint strategy of how you want to use AI tools to help you manage the
Mhm.
influencer campaigns and influencer strategies. And for you, the influencers out there, great way to do some research. Right
Right.
now, a lot of misinformation is out there. Micah also alluded to this as well. Even the AI tools get it wrong. So it's a good idea to do research, and you can do research so much faster using AI tools. If you want to talk about mental health, you can find mental health statistics using AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini. You can cross-pollinate, cross-reference to fact check and to take another step. So again, it is all about saving time. Two
Right.
questions I would love for you to ask yourself. If you're an influencer, what data should you focus on to ensure that you're creating quality content that truly resonates with your followers. If you're a marketer, how can you use and leverage AI tools to segment your audience more effectively to deliver much more personalized and tailored marketing messages?
Those are both great questions, and I'm sure in the chat, if our attendees would love to put a note there, that would be wonderful. I think those are great things that on both ends. Oh, go ahead, Micah. Do you want to jump
I
in?
want to second CJ's endorsement of both ChatGPT and Gemini. Both are fantastic tools. Both of them behave and respond differently. And so as you work with them, you're going to see different things. I would like to add an additional one into the mix there, which is Anthropic's Claude. Claude 3 is absolutely fantastic. They also have a free version. There is a free version of ChatGPT now. They're both free for limited use, right? And so for most people, the amount of use that they're going to see, they'll be able to fit it within the free version. The benefits of those paid versions is that you get deeper context. You can have more complex questions and answers. You can have a longer conversation with that context preserved. And that can be really, really helpful based on your workflow and what you're trying to do. Sorry about that. Let's get back to the questions.
I appreciate that. Okay, it sounds like we have a couple of options then, and that's great. And I know CJ, you mentioned you know, making sure you're kind of cross-referencing them. Again, I think we've all said at this point, they're not always correct in everything that they're sharing. So it's your responsibility as a creator, as a marketer, as an individual using AI to be aware of what's being shared with you and aligning and making sure that's one, true, and two, relevant to the conversation that you're wanting to have. Okay, let's jump into influencer identification. Micah, I will come over to you next. How does AI help in identifying the right influencers for a brand's target audience?
So look, there's one question that we're trying to answer, right? As a brand or a marketer or an agency, you're trying to answer the question, who out there as an influencer is going to perform best for me with whatever my marketing goal is, whether that's brand awareness or whether it's a particular product endorsement, whether it, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do, who is going to be best suited for that? And there's a whole bunch of factors that go into that, right? So we have the old school way where you're just looking for some really, really quantitative metrics, right? Well, I want this, you know, I need to be within this CPM and I need to have this engagement rate and I need to have this many followers, and all of that is good. One of the things that's really, really hard is that, you know, here we are years and years out from Cambridge Analytica, right? But that's still very much affecting the industry in terms of marketing. Marketing just there's a diet based on those demographics, right? Who do we have who is listening or paying attention to our products, or who could be potentially listening or paying attention to these products? Who is in need of this good or service? And demographics plays a big part in that, and a lot of that is predictive, right? A lot of that is we're trying to figure this stuff out, and even before you get to AI, there's a lot of work that went into trying to figure out particular demographics for brands, demographics for influencers. And so one of the things that AI really helps us with is you can do some of this analysis and look at the content that's being created, look at the creators, look at the comments that are coming back from people who are following, and you can make some really good inferences about audience demographics and what's important to them and what their life experience is like, and how you can really sort of hone in on who is resonating with particular influencers, and is that an audience that really resonates with the brand or product that you're working with. And so I think that's one of the most important things that you can work with there. The other thing that really helps is we've been really good at these quantitative metrics, right? And I still think they still hold true. What's great is that as much as they're, you know, just these really crunchy numbers, they're also still very good leading indicators of how good your experience is going to be working with a particular influencer and how good the performance is going to be. But there's all these incredible qualitative metrics that you're able to sort of layer in and really finesse that piece of it with AI, and really looking at things like how consistent is the quality of the content that's being provided. How relevant and timely is that information? How are they doing in terms of trend capitalization? Trend capitalization is something that's so tricky, right? You do it at the right time, and it's like, oh my gosh, what a lift, and it's so great, and it's tongue in cheek, and you're winking at your audience, and they get it, and they're moving along, and you do it at the wrong time, and it's like, huh? I mean, there's art to this stuff, right? And people who are really, really good at it, um, there are ways to measure that now with AI that previously was really, really difficult to get to. And you can get to scoring algorithms that help you try to figure out, how good someone will be. And the hard thing is, um, so different people will be your best performing influencer for different campaigns,
Right.
even for the same product, right? And so there's so many pieces that go into that, and some of the predictive analytics and some of the machine learning that goes on, really looking at historical data and looking at the information behind what's worked in the past, can really help you inform what's going to work best in the future, but also to fine tune ongoing campaigns and say, hey, this is really hot right now. What can we do to jump on this trend? How can we get the next few pieces to come through with this?
Mhm. Yeah. CJ, I'll quickly send it over to you because I know, man, there's a lot to say about AI within influencer marketing. But with all of this in mind, have you noticed any changes in the way brands approach influencer collaborations due to this integration of AI technology?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been able to streamline the selection process. Everything that Micah said is absolutely true.
Yeah,
What we're seeing that's happening a lot more is that things are much more data driven and strategically aligned with the
absolutely.
brand's goals. So I think that, and I would probably say, things like Aspire IQ, Affluence, but now there's just so many tools that are being used that it's making the selection process a little bit easier based on whatever you're trying to target. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think, like I said, that is a really good point because I'm always trying to see like how can we have like the best winning formulas.
Mhm.
So all of you marketers out there, when you're identifying and having the selection process, make sure you have a really nice strategy and plan. And there is no one size fits all plan anymore. That doesn't work
Yeah.
anymore. Everything is so niche. Micah hit the nail on the head, or the head on the nail, whatever. Which is that everything is changing so rapidly and the trends change so rapidly. So one influencer may work for this at this particular time and then someone else for something else. So you need to have an overall strategy that's very inclusive. We talked about Pinterest trends before we hopped on this call the other day.
Yes.
And Pinterest trends is doing something really interesting with AI because Pinterest is essentially saying, this is what's cool right now, and this is what it looks like it will be.
Mhm.
So just pay attention to how that evolves. If you're an influencer, you want to use AI tools to see what criteria should you be using
Mhm.
to have alignment with brand partnership opportunities that come your way. So again, seeing a lot more um, selection processes being made simplified by AI tools, but also even automating those tasks. At this stage of the game, when you're getting a query from somebody, the language is so is so much the same. Just the other day, I got 10 different inquiries from 10 different brands, and they all said the same thing. And it was like, oh, it's obvious that I was plugged into some sort of software and they spit out some data and some automated talking points. So I've seen that become more of the norm. It is easier to select an influencer and get the ball rolling on a campaign and automate that. So
Yeah.
we are seeing that. So again, if you're looking for a winning formula, you just want to understand that you have to like modify these strategies
Right.
as it goes on and not just stick to one thing and use it all the way through.
Yeah, and that even feels relevant in terms of the emails that you received. I mean, it sounds like they were all very similar. And while again, we're talking about automation here, we love the idea of it. I think there's still very much a human element to all of this that we need to be aware of. And we need to be adding in our own personal touches. I can speak for myself as being in space of a creator. I would love a personalized email. I love someone who mentions my family or something that I've been doing recently. It's those little things that I think make the connection that much more stronger. And as we hear more and more conversation about brand ambassadors and working with influencers for a more long-term contract versus just the one-offs, I think those are the things that, on the flip side, the influencers are really looking for in the partners that they're working with day to day. So it sounds like a little bit of a mix. And we're going to talk about content creation next. And I think this is a really important one because this is really going into the influencers' hands and kind of figuring out how they're using it to create the content now. But Micah, I'd love to throw it back to you and would
Sure.
love to pose the question about what role does AI play in content creation and optimizing for influencer marketing?
So one of the things that I would love to get across to everybody who's listening right now is that you may actually think I'm not I'm not using AI in my content creation because I'm not using ChatGPT or Gemini.
Mhm.
You almost without exception are using it if you're using tools today. AI is ever present. It's there in video editing. It's there in photo editing. It's part of music editing software and suites. It's part of. It's literally built into Word. Hello, Copilot. It's everywhere. It's everywhere you can think of, and it seems like it almost happened overnight, but it didn't, right? This has been building for a long, long time. It just really reached a tipping point
Mhm.
where we were really able to create these amazing, fluid, natural language interfaces
Right.
into computing and be able to get natural language output out of it, which is fantastic, right? So it's part of everything. I think that ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude get a lot of the spotlight, and deservedly so.
Mhm.
They're really really important tools, but all of the things that are going on in terms of image creation. I mean, how much time and attention is going into trying to create graphics and infographics and all of these things that it's like you know exactly what you need, you know exactly what you want. You just you and it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be good enough to convey the information. And
Right.
now we have these incredible tools that are able to do that. Say, these are the data points. Give me a bar chart that shows me this information. Make it colorful and interesting. And it'll go through and do it. And you go, yeah, I don't like that one. And it'll go through and give you three more options. And then you pick the one that you want and you save it. How much time did that save you? Because it wasn't the main message. It's a sidebar to everything that you're doing, but it was relevant, it was important, and it's impactful, right? It makes a difference in terms of your ability to communicate,
Mhm.
and having that information at hand is wonderful. And you know, there's a lot to be said about this because people look at it and they go, well, I mean, image creation, music creation, writing creation, right? These are things that I um I have a hand in all of these, right? From a standpoint of a vocation, right? These are all things that I like and enjoy. The
Mhm.
reality is, it isn't replacing those things, right? It can do some things, but I guarantee you there are not graphic designers out there who are like, man, what I really want to do is pull together a bar chart. We mean this is something that if you think about it, these tools have already existed for years to do this sort of stuff. It's just you had more steps in between. You're sitting there in Excel or you're sitting there in PowerPoint, you're trying to put the data in, put this information together. This is just an evolution of that. This is not going through. I mean, the things where I feel like it's most impactful is not taking away stuff. Now, there are other places, ethical concerns around content creation and authenticity of voice and other stuff that we can get into later. Um, there's definitely um, there's definitely a lot of opportunity for sort of the dark side of AI and how that creeps into the global conversation, um, and being able to recognize what is computer generated and what is author generated, I think becomes really tricky, especially forward from here as these large language models and generative AI gets better and better and better, as the image editing gets better and better and better, distinguishing reality from manipulated reality becomes more and more challenging. And the interesting thing is, I think we're going to be leaning a lot on AI as a safeguard against AI. So we literally do this today, right? So we have virus software and malware software that's literally built to go out and exploit computers. And what do? We have this awesome, security software that we all have installed on all of our machines to help guard us against this malicious use of technology. I think that we will likely see the same thing when it comes to AI and content, and being able to really get some kind of scoring around whether or not we think something was generated with AI and where it was generated. But there's a wide open field here. We don't know what we don't know in terms of how things will change, and what might become regulated in the future as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long way from content creation.
No, it was perfect. Yes, it sounds like sky's the limit. I think there's a lot of ways that this could change.
That's really the message here, is that there are so many ways to begin utilizing AI in your content creation, and every single one of them has benefits and drawbacks. You just need to be able to educate yourself on the ways in which it can help you, and be really mindful of the ways in which it can shoot you in the foot.
Yeah. Well, CJ, not to put you on the spot, but I'd love to hear how you have utilized AI integration in your own content creation, whether that is, like Micah mentioned, through captions or imagery. I mean, anything that you're doing to utilize it, how has that, added to your process, or maybe even kind of taken away things that perhaps you didn't enjoy doing before?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things that Micah said that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to also clarify and point out. So right now, from the vantage point of a marketer, using AI generated content like photos, videos, any of that, understand that right now we're in this very interesting moment of time where people are going to criticize you for that. So if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you publicly announce this is an AI generated content. That is going to be a way of the future. Eventually, you're going to have to disclose that. That's going to come. So why don't you beat people to the punch? That way, you're ensuring trust and safety with your audience. So with that being said, as a content creator and as an influencer, one of the things that you can use AI tools for, and this is just like a simple workflow sort of situation, creating a strategy that's going to be effective for you as far as like your plan, as far as your posting plan, your content creation plan, et cetera, et cetera. Using tools like CapCut, I love using CapCut. It's probably one of the fastest growing tools out there because it has all of these inclusive elements of effects, AI, caption creating, everything for like, and if it's a pro account, it's like $7.99 a month. I mean, it's insane to think that it's like outperforming Adobe products, because when you're exporting your content, it's already setting you up to post on TikTok or anything that you want. Right. So that right there is just a great example of how you incorporate this stuff into your workflow. So what does that do? That makes things shooting easier. You can use the teleprompter function within CapCut. So therefore, if I use ChatGPT as a script, cross-reference and check it for facts, put in my own language in there, make sure that it sounds like me. So there are levels to this. It isn't what Micah was saying earlier. It is not you just using ChatGPT and be like, here's a command, copy paste. That's not at all the way to do any of this. What it is that it's just saving you time. Instead of you taking hours out of your day and you're like, I don't have time. Now you have no excuse. You have zero excuse because now you have the time to do it. So strategy, content creation, use something like a CapCut. That's going to save you time with shooting. It's going to save you time with editing. Then once you have that ready to go, you can export that different file types. I mean, all of this is just a huge saver of time. Right. You can use any analytical tool from any app, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Sprout, whatever. At this point, everybody's got this. The best times to post, the
Right.
best days to post, when you're going to get the most engagement. Then you can strategize a little bit about what those captions look like, how many hashtags, what type of hashtags, again, using niche hashtags, and again, using tools like a Gemini or a ChatGPT to see what types of captions that'll work best for you. Personalize it. Always proofread and proof your stuff before you put it out into the world. Next thing you know, you can automate this formula. So it makes things so much easier. What I always tell people is that, again, because there's levels to it and there's steps to it, you're always going to be authentic. If you feel like you're being inauthentic, then stop. Do something different.
Right.
You using ChatGPT isn't forcing you to lie. Like that's
Yeah,
not the
your
point of
your
using these.
audience is going to know as
Your
well.
audience is gonna
Very
know. Yeah, one of the things that I jokingly said in the office the other day is like anytime somebody says game changer in a video, you know that they wrote that in ChatGPT because ChatGPT by default says, "Here's a game changer." Pro tip: don't say game changer in any of your videos.
Also, delve. Delve is another dead giveaway. The
uh,
word
Delve.
delve is very, very uncommon, and yet you'll see it all the time in GPT generated
huh.
work.
Well, it sounds like we already have some great recommendations in terms. Oh, go ahead,
I
Micah.
wanted to add one more thing to CJ's
Please
awesome
do.
answer there, which is that I would love for influencers to think of AI not as a technological substitution for who they are. It is technology enablement for your message and your brand and for who you are.
Right.
My 9-year-old daughter edits in CapCut regularly. She creates her own short films, she creates animations, and she's not on social media. She's 9. And I'm not saying that she's an absolute expert in all things CapCut, but the very fact that she can get on there with her iPad and shoot a video and edit it and cut it together and put a soundtrack on it, and she's 9. I guarantee you can do this. You can use these tools and they will help you, not in a way that somehow cuts off your creativity, but in ways that enhances it, in ways that enable you to do more than you thought that you could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I'd love to add one more thing to what Micah
Yeah,
said.
please
That
do.
was an awesome point. That is the big picture scope of using AI tools. If a 9-year-old is using it right now, this is the future. This is what it's going to look like. It's unavoidable. So if you're being smart about this, see how this can enhance what you do, your purpose and your value proposition working with any brand or within a company. This is supposed to be an added benefit. This is not a replacement. This is the reason why the scarcity mindset and the fear of using AI is kind of confusing because, dude, people were scared when the internet came out. People were afraid of that. People were afraid of social media. And I mean, I still got a love-hate relationship with social media. But in saying that, AI tools is not going to destroy humanity. It's a tool. Like that's the whole point. And we're having these conversations and these discussions to work out how we use it to our benefit, not to our destruction. So let's think of how we can incorporate this into our workflow, not replacing our workflow, not replacing ourselves, but how this enhances what we're trying to do, avoiding burnout, maximizing productivity, increasing the value of what we bring to the table. This is how you should be looking at it.
Absolutely. You said something there, CJ, about being an advocate. I know in my current position, and I feel like any other one that I've been in within influencer marketing, I'm always standing as the advocate for our influencers, and ensuring that they have the most support that they need. And just hearing that kind of validates even further. These tools are really meant to be used to support and allow other time for other things. And being an advocate is one of those, particularly in my position that I spend a lot of time in. But by using these tools, it sounds like it's something that I could spend even more time in, as I kind of work through my workflow with AI to come up with a great plan so that I can spend more time with individuals like yourself. So I just love that. I had to point that out.
Absolutely. Just one more point, because you said something else. I have to share this true
Please.
story. Um, I'm sure all of us get a little bit of anxiety or second guessing a photo that we take of ourselves.
Yeah.
So one practice that I've been doing a little bit more is I've been comparing photos with ChatGPT, and I've been like, here's the criteria of this selfie or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Which one do you think would perform the best
Yeah.
with this specific criteria that I set out there? So even through a mental health lens, we're able to use AI tools to our benefit.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It sounds like you have that third person there. They can kind of be helpful in the decision making, and you can kind of just let it rest between you and ChatGPT, and then utilize that photo so that again that thought is not going through your own head. You're kind of putting it out to the AI tools to kind of make decisions or be helpful in that, and then of course sending it out to your audience. So there's kind of three people involved there, but it sounds again like it will help your mental health just that much more better. And speaking of mental health, I know we're going to dive into this, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I know you, CJ, and I are going to be chatting with a couple of other individuals. So thought I'd throw that out there, but very excited about it. I want to be mindful of time too. The hour is just flying by, and I know we briefly already touched on safeguards, but thought I'd throw this out there if there was anything more that we wanted to connect on. Micah, I specifically had a question for you about how AI assists in detecting fraudulent or fake engagement among influencers. That's an ongoing conversation, and wanted to
So
see.
that's of paramount importance, right? In the marketing world is this person's audience authentic? And one of the things I think that is really challenging about that is that under the uh, under the protective cover of privacy rights, which is absolutely valid, right? This is not something that it's not a it's not being thrown up as a convenient shield over people for no reason. There's significant privacy concerns, but you can't really get to um, the vast majority of an influencer's followers unless they are engaging, unless they're commenting back. You can't
Right.
actually see the vast majority of silent followers and what they're doing and what they have going on. And so you have to look to other things. And AI is really good at recognizing patterns and looking for things. If you have somebody who has um, 5,000 followers one week and 250,000 followers the next week, and they don't have a viral post, like they don't have the engagement that actually backs that up,
Mhm.
well, you just experienced somebody who bought a bunch of followers, and you can see that sort of stuff, right? If you have followers who are commenting and you can actually see their profile pictures, and their profile pictures happen to be Adobe stock images, well, guess what? AI can detect that. You can look at it and go, aha, I know where that image came from, and I've seen it 350 times today, and that's a fake profile. AI is really, really good at doing these sorts of things. Like as as humans, we can go through and we can get a feel for this stuff, right? But the whole point is saving time. It's not about the fact that AI can do things that we can't do, although in some ways, I would argue that there are things that it's probably better suited for. Um, Many of these are things that we can do. It's just painstaking process to go through and do these things as a human being. So to be able to have the help to understand where to look, to understand what to look at, to know what to review is incredibly helpful. And the other part is that you can see um, how engagement plays out between an influencer and their audience by really looking at the content and the engagement metrics overall and how those work. And if you see a tremendous change in following, you don't see a significant correlated change in engagement, that's really a pretty big, it's a lot of smoke. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a fire, but it's definitely a lot of smoke there, and it should be investigated.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, One other thought for you, Micah, more so question, I suppose, but how does AI contribute to understanding consumer behavior and preferences in influencer marketing campaigns? I mean, we're
Absolutely.
pulling
So,
cards here. I think that's very relevant.
it is definitely relevant. Um, so I would say that if you're looking at how it plays into understanding their overall preferences, one of the things that it really, really helps with is the fact that you can do, as I touched on before, you can do these inferred audience demographics. You can start looking at things like um, alignment of values and sentiment, right? So there are influencers out there who have a very aligned audience, who are really supportive of everything that that influencer is saying, who are really engaged and passionate about the content and the message. And then there are other influencers who are very provocative and they have an audience who's actually relatively adversarial. There are people who tune in because they want the drama and they're sitting there and they're literally resisting the message and they're trying to give their own antidote, if you will, to the message in the comments. And both of them have engagement. Which one would you rather have for your brand? I would much rather have somebody with aligned engagement from their audience uh, who is really, it's a bunch of people who are sharing information about something that they're all passionate about as a group, things that are important to them. And AI helps you get to some of those pieces, but it also helps you discover hidden hidden contextual relationships that might not be obvious or apparent, right? So here you are looking at um, fashion and you're looking at fashion influencers and you're trying to find people who are particular to your niche and you're trying to look at um, what do you have in this space and you're going through and you're discovering people and you've run a bunch of campaigns and you're finding a lot of the same people who you've worked with before and they're great, but maybe you're looking for something fresh, a fresh perspective, different perspective. And suddenly you realize that if you're looking at people who are travel influencers, there's an overlap with fashion because they're constantly buying new outfits for these fantastical trips that they're doing and they're showcasing these outfits. And suddenly now you have an in to an entirely different group of influencers where there's this hidden connection there that isn't necessarily seen. You also have situations where sometimes influencers look at their content and they go, well, I'm a parenthood influencer. It's all about parenthood, right? But if 65% of their engagement is coming from the posts that they actually do about the family dog and the kids' interaction with the dog, guess what? They're a pet's influencer and they may not actually realize it.
Right.
And so understanding your own content through different lenses and through different ways is also a powerful way to look at and leverage your influence.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
No, I love that. I appreciate that. I think you said there's so many great nuggets in there. And I think there are a lot of options that brands and marketers and even ourselves here at FYI can explore in order to utilize AI to help us, kind of pinpoint an audience behavior or just the right influencer to talk about. I don't know why, but the brand Poppy keeps coming to mind. They just did a big influencer activation at Coachella, but I feel like they are doing things like this. They are finding the connections through their audience members. They are really finding who are their fan favorites, and it just feels really relevant. So anyways, I recognize we're almost at time. I had one more thing I thought we could talk about quickly, and then we can jump to the questions. But CJ, this one is for you, and about measurement. Can you share any experiences where AI-driven analytics tools have helped you to really optimize your content for better engagement rates? It kind of ties back to what you were talking about earlier when you were saying, here's 2 photos, help me pick which one's going to do the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, with every social media app that I use, it's a very good idea if you're TikTok, Instagram, for example, to make sure to look at those professional dashboards and
Right.
see what content is working, what content is not working very well for you. One of the things, and Mike actually reminded me of this with his points that he was just making. A good pro tip is to use ChatGPT and Gemini and maybe do a search. If you're an influencer, do a search on yourself
Mhm.
and see what type of content are they saying that you're really good at.
Yeah.
and maybe counter that a little bit. Do some brainstorming of like what works, what doesn't work, what you don't like doing as an influencer, what you do like doing, and see like what some recommendations are. Tie that into your strategy. You should always be reinventing yourself and finding new ways to continue to be authentic and innovative. Instead of chasing trends, become the trend, right? So that's how you can use AI tools to your advantage. Another thing that I do, another awesome pro tip, is I do use these tools for reporting. We talked a lot about measurements. We talk a lot about return on investment. We talk a lot about CPM, this, that, engagement rate, blah, blah, blah. If you were to able to use that in a way of, here is a summary of what CJ Johnson, who he is and what he did for this specific campaign, can you quantify that for me? Can you turn that into qualitative metrics, analytics, so I can share that in a report? And then you can plug that into something like Canva, or some sort of tool that FYI has, to
Yes.
create your own template,
Yes.
plug, and essentially you're creating your own report, but you're doing the research on yourself. So reporting and continuing to keep up with becoming the trend, not chasing the trend, becoming the trend. That's a great way to use AI tools as well.
Yeah, that was insightful, and I appreciate you going into that, CJ. I have chills as we talk about this. I love that you're pointing, different influencers and audience members in the direction of really making sure that you're maintaining yourself. We had some other questions that I don't think we're going to get to today, but they were about
Can
authenticity.
can we spend like 30 to 60 seconds just
Sure,
talking about the dark side of AI? Because there's a huge amount of
sure.
potential risks and pitfalls, and we spent an hour really talking about how awesome it is. But there's some things we should really, I think, just really clearly talk about, right? So, and CJ touched on this earlier, right? Be upfront about it. There's authenticity and trust issues around AI. That's one of the major red flags around it is, who do I trust? How, there's opportunities for AI can be used to manipulate audiences. Deepfakes are a huge controversy right now. There's all kinds of psychological damage that can go along with all this stuff in terms of AI being used to create um, really challenging and difficult alternate versions of reality that may not exist. And yet there's safeguards that this is still very much a frontier technology. There's safeguards that are not yet in place. And so it is something that is a very powerful tool. It's also potentially dangerous. Be very careful with it. Be very careful about your kids' usage with it, and just go into it with open eyes. There's I'm going to stop talking about it in a minute, but there's over-reliance on AI can sometimes kill your creativity. There's privacy concerns about the large amount of data that AI has to consume in order to be able to do what it does, and the amount of data that you have to feed into it, and who's holding on to that data and what they're going to do with it later. We all know that whatever goes on the internet is forever. So the same thing holds true for whatever goes into any AI engine that you put out there. You might as well consider it public info, even if it's not. And the last is overdependence on it could potentially end up in situations where you see some skill decay based on things that you used to do manually and you were good at. Just like but think of it like a calculator, right? People don't remember how to use a slide rule because it's no longer necessary. So ask yourself if the skill decay is really a skill that you need to keep honed or not. Anyways, I'm done on my section of it, but CJ, I would love to hear about anything that you might have in terms of adding on to that. And then I'm so sorry, Chelsea.
No, you're doing great. This is a very important piece of it. And I think it's a great way to wrap things up. And we've got a couple of questions, but we'll get to them here shortly. But CJ, of course, want to make sure that you have the time to share your thoughts as well.
No, I think that's a really good point. We live in an era right now where misinformation and this overall fear of uncertainty is a big deal. AI plays into a little bit of our fears with that. So what Micah was just saying was awesome. Right now, just for the purposes of this conversation, just make sure that you're transparent about how you're using AI tools. It's actually like a really great way to connect with your community, because what you're doing is you're tapping into that informative tab, right? So we always want to be informative and entertaining, So you're tapping into that informative tab of like, this is how we're using it. What do you think? How do you like this? Would you like to see more of this? So again, we're able to use that as a way of building safety, trust, and enhancing community engagement.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you both have shared so much with us today. We'll jump to quickly the questions again and being mindful of everyone's time, but there are a few in there that I wanted to touch on, and I'll pose these to you both. They're not kind of focused to one or another. But Heather said she's really excited to utilize AI more. And she said right now there's a great deal of frustration in the food influencer community about AI taking over recipe creations. Her question was, how do we work with AI in this area without getting caught up in the muck of new output? I feel like this just touched on a lot of things that we went through as well, but would love to hear either of yours opinion on this.
Well, I guess I could speak just from a creator standpoint.
Yeah,
I I think that also falls under the line of like TikTok trends where there's like
sure.
random recipes that pop up. So as a creator, I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. I would stick to what you're good at, what your niche is, and paying attention to the trends. Remember what I said before, you're not copying the trend. What you're doing is you're creating the trend. So what AI is essentially doing with food recipes is that it's just allowing people to be a little bit more creative and find new ways to do certain things. So you should be able to use that to your advantage as well. And just be mindful of like who you are, what your brand is. So it's more along the lines of like, okay, well, what kind of recipes would I like to do? How would I like to showcase it? If I'm using this AI tool, how's it saving me time to automate this? So it's a little bit easier for me to be more creative with how I display these recipes that I'm working on.
Yeah, that's great.
I would like to add two really quick things to that excellent response. One is that AIs cannot taste, and two
True.
is that um, basic food is combining ingredients, right? But elevated food is all about technique, and AI can't do that for you, right? If you're sharing technique, if you're sharing how something is actually done, having that visceral experience with your audience is crucial, and it's about your engagement with them and what you're able to teach them about how to actually cook.
Yeah, yeah, that's very poignant, Micah. That's such a great thing to think about. I myself am no chef, but love to, play in the kitchen. And like you said, AI can't taste. They don't kind of know what it's actually going to be the end result. Even though you can mix ingredients. And again, I think we've all had a cake or a batch of cookies or something go wrong with, really not a reason why. So I appreciate both of your insight. We've got one more that I thought we could touch on. And again, for both of you, but this person said, what criteria should brands consider when using AI for influencer selection? And we kind of had two of the same questions. So we're kind of, we're knocking out two questions at once.
Sure, I would like to take a quick stab at that. Here's a pro tip. What you want to do is you want to actually reference your style guide, your brand messaging, and the overall messaging of the company, the do's and the don'ts. Once you have that established, those are the guidelines of what you should be using. So what we want to do is when we're selecting different creators is that we want a diversity aspect of it. I always like to do like an equal amount of men and women, they, them, whatever, just to sort of have this inclusive umbrella. As long as the messaging ties into the bigger brand messaging, that's really the only criteria that you should be looking at. That has nothing to do with the analytics of things. I know Micah touched on this before, but you do want to pay attention to engagement. So the number of followers isn't as big of a deal as it used to be. It is more along the lines of like, okay, what is this overall impact? So shares, saves, and comments are three qualitative engagement metrics that we're really paying attention to when we're doing selection criteria.
Yeah. Micah, do you want to add to that at all?
So one of the things I want to add to it is that AI is helping with things like understanding someone's style and persona online, right? So we're all affecting a specific personality with our online personas, and being able to help quantify that and be able to look at how that might actually align with a brand's perceived image of how the brand is represented can really help. But that's something that I don't think that's something that you push towards. I think that's something that you lean into your own authenticity with it,
Yeah.
and the right partnerships will come based on people who are resonating with the same audience and the same message.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. I was just looking, I had a note in terms of wrapping things up, and I feel like that's a great segue into it. You know, we covered a lot of ground today. AI is very robust, as we can tell. There's a lot to it. It can be utilized in many different ways. And it's been used for a long time. And obviously now it's at very much the forefront. We're hearing a lot about it in the news, every social media outlet. I mean, everyone's talking about it. And really for us now, it's just like how we move forward with it. And doesn't maybe feel as maybe hopefully as scary or as bad as some of us might have thought coming into this conversation. And I think there's a lot of benefits for any influencer or for any brand, agency, marketer, anything like that. But I wanted to just say, you know, we're wrapping up now. We're over time already. My goodness, this conversation went so fast. But wanted to thank everyone in the audience who joined us today, and of course to you both, CJ and Micah. Thank you for joining and having this amazing conversation. You can find CJ on LinkedIn under CJ Johnson, and his book is on Amazon, The McGuire Method. We'll have a link in our post for the webinar follow-up, and of course we'll be pulling a winner for the giveaway, so you'll be reached out here shortly. And then Micah, of course, you can find Micah on LinkedIn as well, and myself, you can find me on LinkedIn also. But we invite you to continue the conversation, excuse me, on our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. They're both under the FYI by Find Your Influence. We have a lot of great conversation there. They're really meant to be spaces for influencers and for marketers, brands, agency members who want to collaborate and have more conversations about influencer marketing. We have a lot of fun in there, so I would encourage you guys to join. And then stay tuned. Next month, like I mentioned, it's May's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're going to be meeting with CJ and some other individuals to talk about mental health mindfulness within influencer marketing. So stay tuned. Those details will be coming soon, but I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you both so much. It was great talking with you all, and we will look forward to the next conversation. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yes, thank you, CJ.
Oh,
Thank you, Micah.
thanks, CJ. Thanks, Chelsea.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.